Dumbledore is not a Dumbledork.
You know, I think Qui-Gon might have had a thing for Shmi Skywalker, and the Force was just a cover for where Anakin came from.
I really don't like sand.
Welcome to the Council of Nerds.
The Council of Nerds.
Welcome to the Council of Nerds. As usual, my name is
Welcome.
Brian. Hi, Dan.
Hi. I just wanted to say it too. Everyone else did.
That's true. It's a valid point. Joined by my lovely friends Dan and Logan, as always,
Yaha!
and Mario apparently.
Mario wishes.
I mean, maybe. I doubt it. He's probably got better things to do.
He'd
How are
probably
you
be a
guys?
horrible guest.
Because he doesn't say anything other than Yahoo! Yeah, I don't know. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
I am doing well as well. I bought a new diffuser for my essential oils.
Okay.
Yeah, we needed to bring that up, didn't we, Dan?
Yep.
Yep. Sponsor us. Hi.
Who? Just essential oils, like,
Yes.
or
Lavender.
diffusers?
Lavender and orange juice sponsor us. Those are my favorite.
Diffuse the nerd right into your nose.
Wow. This episode is sponsored by Your Daily Shower. Please take one.
Always.
As stated in previous episodes, we are talking about Harry Potter. We're taking the movies in turn, and we might break it up with something special here soon. But today we are talking about The Prisoner of Azkaban, depending on who you ask. Yeah, it's a good
Is there
one.
another name for the book?
Well, Azkaban.
It's just
Oh,
different
okay. I
pronunciation.
was like, I didn't actually know that. That would have been cool, man.
Taters, Tatos, it's all. It is what it is.
Tomatoes.
Right.
tomatoes, potatoes. Yeah.
Right, they're all the same thing. Interchangeable, really.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. It's actually grown on me. I didn't like it much. I think when I was first watching Harry Potter, probably because it just got darker. And when I was a kid, I was like, oh, that's not fun and heartwarming. But now,
That says a lot about me.
why? Because you're evil
Oh,
and enjoyed it when you were a
well,
child.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed it.
It's-
It confused me as a child.
It's the
because
ginger.
of the time thing, but I liked the darkness, and I think that's one of the reasons I like it now.
I like the darkness. I was molded by it.
He's always been a big fan of it.
Always.
I like the third one. I think my favorite part was the werewolf. When it changed into the werewolf, I was like, whoa, it blew my mind.
See, I really don't like the way I didn't like the way he looked as a werewolf. Like, that's not what I've ever associated as a werewolf. He seemed
Yeah,
too,
me
he
either.
seemed too gangly. I don't know. Maybe that was part of, like, the horror of the curse, is that it's not like you turn into freaking Jacob from Twilight. Yeah, I just made that reference. I apologize. You don't turn into this
It is fantasy.
freaking bad A wolf. You turn into this gangly, horrid, disturbing looking amalgamation of man and wolf, which I guess makes sense. I mean, if you consider it a curse.
That makes a lot more sense to me, but I do think there wasn't enough hair on him in the movie.
Yeah, he's kind of a hairless werewolf, but he still had his hair done. If you notice in the movie, he still
Did he
has.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his comb over still.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Very important to keep that going,
Mhm.
especially when you're trying to get with those werewolf ladies.
It's true. It's true.
Sure, it's very.
Let's move into this, though. Let's get into this. I love this movie and book, so let's do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of interesting characters are introduced in this movie. We get introduced to the Marauders as a whole, as a group, with it's Messers? Is that what they say? It's like Messer. Messers Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs. Which, by the way, just like off the cuff nicknames, well played.
Solid.
Mhm.
Very solid.
Yeah,
I couldn't do
those are
that.
Great.
My nickname
No.
growing up was Bry Guy. Like, that's not very original. So
Mine was
I
just
would've-
Dan.
If I was friends with the Marauders, I think I would have literally just been like, dog, deer, and rat. and then the werewolf guy.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
nailed it, guys. Good job.
Animals. And it wouldn't be the Marauders either. We'd just be like the animal crew.
We are
Feeling
animal
bad.
friends. Yeah, we're the
We
Wonder
are the
Huzzah!
pals.
No, but I think the entire really the concept of the Marauders blows my mind, because you have this group of 3 very talented and 1 not so talented wizards who are able to accomplish magic that most people don't either try or can fathom. If you think about how few animagi there are within the continuity of Harry Potter, besides the Marauders we know of, McGonagall and
McGonagall.
Rita Skeeter, like that's it
Is that the only ones?
that I remember. I'm sure Dumbledore
think.
probably can, but we never see it. You know what I mean? Like he probably knows how or whatever. But they figured that out by their 4th or 5th year, like
Yeah.
which is crazy, and all because of they wanted to help their friend, which is a great motivator in life. But I don't know if I like either of you enough to do that. But
I don't know. I think I would become. Yeah, I think I would have done it. Not because for you, but just because it'd be cool to be an anime.
yeah,
I'm gonna say animagus because I'm just used to saying it that way.
it's fine. You can
I
say
am
do
going to
whatever
call
you
it
want.
an animorph because
A
because
mighty,
you're
you're
an
a
damn.
Mighty Morphin Power Ranger.
No, animorphs. You never saw
No,
those
the
books?
Animorphs. I remember them. They had the cool covers where it showed the like stages of their Animorphous.
Wow. I'm outside the nerd bubble on this one. I don't know what you guys are talking about. So
Next
I didn't
episode is
read the
going to be
books,
about
I just saw
animorphs.
them. No, it's not.
It's not. No.
I think their friend dynamic is really interesting. My personal favorite of the group is Lupin, and always has been. A lot of people come back and say they like Sirius more. I think Lupin himself, one, has a super cool name, Remus, which comes from Roman mythology, because you have the brothers that founded Rome, Remus and Romulus, who are raised by wolves in the legend, which is kind of an interesting link to werewolf and all that. But Romulus killed his brother Remus, and then Rome is named after Romulus, whatever. But
Imagine
cool
if it was
name.
called Ream.
History.
Ream wasn't built in a day.
Welcome to Rheims, Italy. I hate that.
Here's
I
a
hate
good
that.
question.
I hate that. Go ahead.
Here's a good question though. Before we move on, if you like, seriously, if you were to become an animagus, what would the animal be for you?
That's an interesting question because you don't get to choose. At least,
Let's say you get to choose.
huh? Say I get to choose.
Yeah, let's say you get to choose.
I've always wanted to be a bird, so like maybe an eagle. You know,
What? What's an eagle?
like the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, an eagle.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
Just
egg
pronounce
waffles.
it different.
like an eagle or a falcon. I think that would be cool.
That would be cool.
So far in the canon of Harry Potter, I don't know of anybody who's been anything other than, well, I guess Rita Skeeter is a beetle. She
Roach.
can fly.
Oh yeah, that's right. I thought you were. a roach.
But aside from that, everyone else has been a 4-legged ground animal.
True.
But I'm sure there's at least history of someone becoming a bird. I think that would be cool. That's just me.
Cool. Dan.
Aside from the obvious answer of a liger because they're bred for their magical prowess,
Oh my god.
Right.
I think it'd be cool to be like a panther, like a big cat of some kind, because you're like they can sneak around. It's crazy, they're these huge cats and they can sneak up on people, but they're also really big and cool. But I'm allergic to cats, so.
So you might give away your position as you're sneezing. I'm trying to be
Hopefully,
sneaky. Oh, sorry.
Cover blown. Get out of there.
Everybody
So
move.
if my allergies go away, then big cat. If not, honestly, probably a dog. I just love dogs so much. It'd be so cool to be one.
Dan would
Or
probably end
maybe
up
a wolf.
being like a Chihuahua or a Shih Tzu or something. Just like a little yappy dog.
Or it'd be like a goldfish, just flopping there like what's that one Pokemon? Magikarp.
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 Harry Potter
You're
actually
just like,
he references being turned into a goldfish in the fourth one. He's like, maybe
He
I
does.
can find out being an animagus and turn myself into a goldfish. And I always thought that was
Literally
funny.
just listen to that part.
What about you, Logan? What's your animal of choice?
Whew. That's actually, it is a tough question. It's weird because like you kind of want to go to your favorite animal, but then you have to think strategically as well. Like Dan was saying, like if you was a panther or something, they're sneaky. They can get places sneaky, but they're super agile and fast. And but I think it'd be cool. Like I like wolves, but I don't know if I'd want to be a wolf animagus. You know what I mean? I think that'd be like, you see a wolf walking down the street, you're gonna freak out no matter what. So I think being a wolf isn't gonna do anything for me. I feel like if you're gonna be an animagus, be something cool, or be something that's like worth your time.
Inconspicuous.
Like, no offense. Well, I don't care if I offend James Potter, but James Potter's was kind of stupid. I mean, like, I know he doesn't get to choose, but being a stag, you're not gonna be able to sneak anywhere. You're not gonna be able to like go anywhere cool.
He's gonna get shot on the side of the road.
Yeah, like some dude's gonna be like, "Look at that buck over there." He's done. But for time's sakes, I'll just say wolf.
Well, I think horse could be fun too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something
Yeah.
fast.
All right.
Thank you for that question. I enjoyed it.
You're welcome.
Who if you guys had to pick a marauder to be your best friend, who would you go with?
Peter. I'm just kidding.
Nailed it.
I'm just saying Peter was loyal to another person, but he was loyal.
Like, how did he get into Gryffindor? I don't.
I think it was just his weight. He was like a Neville kind of figure, but he chose a different path than Neville did. You know. I think he had a good heart. Kind of.
Yeah.
I think deep down, he had a good heart.
I think he was more
That's
like
true.
he was more of a coward than he was.
Yeah, he was just frightened.
Yeah.
But I think I would choose Sirius.
Hmm.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I like Sirius.
Interestingly.
Cool prison tats.
What were you saying, Dan?
I think I don't know. I think I would say Lupin. I feel like Lupin is the best person to be friends with, and have as a friend. I feel like, James and Sirius, mainly when they were younger and in Hogwarts, they sucked. Like, they would like bully people. They were
Sirius wasn't that
just
bad.
yeah, mainly James. But and then Peter just kind of went along with just whatever else the cool kids were doing, and
He was along for the
then
ride.
the cool kid became Voldemort, and oops. But yeah, so I think I would choose Lupin. I just feel like he's just a good homie. He'd go out of his way to help someone.
Loony Lupin.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That was an interesting question. I like Lupin too. I don't know. I think he is kind of that long-suffering friend that he always goes. He's going through his own crap, and I think he knows that he can't change anything, so he's always trying to help other people get through their stuff. And so I think he's got an interesting perspective on life, even though he kind of turns into in the seventh one, he has his own little issues and stuff that I don't really think fits with the character very much.
Stressing out.
Yeah. But aside from that moment of freak out, I think he is always looking for ways that he can, sometimes at his own detriment, sacrifice himself to help someone else. And I think that in that some way he's doing that as an adult more than he did as a kid, because he didn't correct his friends as much as he was expected to in school, which is why he was made a prefect and all that. And I think part of him has some guilt tied with the Snape issues with James and Sirius, that maybe he feels like he could have done more to quell that issue, and maybe some of this could have been avoided. Yeah, I don't know. I like them all. I think their dynamic is really interesting, and I think it's really sad that, spoiler alert, none of them make it in the end. But
What?
I have a moment that didn't make it into the movie from the book that I very much enjoyed in the book and made it a better book for me.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the extent of Harry's memory when he's under the influence of the Dementors. That he can, like, in the movie, he, like, passes out and he hears someone, like, presumably his mom, yell his name. And you only hear it, like,
Right.
the one time, I think, maybe twice.
Yeah, I think it's the first time. Or he hears it twice.
Yeah. And then, but in the book, he hears his mom actually saying, "Not Harry, take me, don't take Harry, don't hurt Harry." He hears his dad say,
yeah.
"Lily, take Harry and run, I'll hold him off." Like, he hears his family, like his parents' last words, trying
Yeah.
to save his life. And that is just so much more, like, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. Like, someone who, like, thinking of the reality of that as someone who has never known the voice of their parents, who then hears their last dying words, like, that would be so heart-wrenching, and feeds more into the narrative of Harry hating Sirius for what he thinks he did,
Yeah.
and really feeds into that. I mean, I would hate the guy if I thought I knew who betrayed my parents, and then I was able to hear that. Oof, like, I would be out for blood.
Yeah.
And I think that just gets kind of shortened in the movie, which is a bit of a disappointment, because I think that's a great movie moment. Like, that's an opportunity to have a great narrative in a movie, and I think it was just kind of lost.
Yeah, and like you said, it adds on to that, like, almost pure hatred that Harry has for Sirius when he finds out that Sirius, well, quote unquote, betrayed his parents,
Right.
and basically killed his parents, And so I think, yeah, that kind of kills that in the movie, because I don't know if I would say it still could have been good. There still could have been more hatred there, and that could have been just Daniel Radcliffe's fault as a teenage actor. But I think it would have helped definitely give you that, like, oh man, I hate Sirius too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the part that always bothered me in the movie about it, especially when I was younger, is it never seemed to be like, when I was younger, I was always confused on who was doing the screaming.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like didn't mean too much in the movie. Like, it's almost comical, especially the first one where, it goes from a screen into a train whistle.
Yeah.
It just kind of like takes away from the moment. You're like, yeah, that is kind of weird. Like, did Harry hear a voice, or was it the train whistle that he heard and made him, he was like, oh shoot.
Yeah. It's true.
Do you guys have anything
Another.
that didn't make it?
Yeah, I do specifically. I actually recently listened to this book like a couple weeks ago, and the one thing that really in the book was so good, and they did okay on in the movie, but they did not do it justice, is the scene in the Shrieking Shack at the, well, not at the end, but when Sirius is there, Lupin shows up, Ron, Hermione, all of them, they're all there, and when it's all discussed and comes out about Peter Pettigrew, being
Right.
the bad guy kind of thing, and Snape showing up, that whole bit in the book is so much more detailed and so much better. It is so much better in the book. I specifically like the description about the, what do they call that, like the secret keeper or whatever?
Yeah, the Fidelius charm and all that.
Yeah, I like that. The first time I listened to the third one, I guess I just wasn't listening or something. I don't know. I did not realize, I didn't listen about that. So like I didn't pay attention to that. And then the second time round, which was just a couple weeks ago, like that secret keeper stuff, I think that's really cool. It's a really cool thing that she came up with, that J.K. Rowling came up with for the story. And I think it, for me personally, makes that betrayal harder for Sirius. You know what I mean? Because like Sirius, they wanted Sirius to be that secret keeper, But then Sirius is like, no, they're going to suspect that I am that secret keeper. Let's give it to Peter. And
Yeah.
then Peter sucked, and he went and
Sucked.
told Voldemort, and that's how it all happened. But can you imagine, like, because that was like, oh, like he's going to take that on himself, like, oh, that was all my fault. I'm the ones that said give it to Peter. They won't
Right.
suspect Peter. And then Peter went off and betrayed us. Like, I feel like it's all my fault. And so that would be devastating, you know?
Yeah.
But that whole scene in the movie is fun. I like it. It's good. It's got some good lines, and Peter turning into a human again is gross. But
Yeah.
the book just explains everything so much better. It makes the story so much better.
And tell me it's not perfectly cast. Like,
Oh,
creepiest
Peter's
Peter Pettigrew you could have
disgusting.
found. Perfect
Yeah.
cast for that.
yeah.
I think
My
in
wife
the
hates him.
I think in the book, Ron, Hermione, and Harry all Expelliarmus Snape, and that's why he goes flying.
Yeah, it was like this combination of all their spells hitting him, like flew him back hard
Yeah, it
instead
wasn't
of
just one. Because isn't it just
Yeah, it
Harry
wasn't
that
just
does
one.
it?
Yep.
In the movie?
in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw this thing on the internet, this funny video, and this dude was like, he was like, I think I found the best way to be the most powerful wizard in the world. It's not the Deathly Hallows. You just need your wand, and then you need someone else's wand, and then you need to master saying spells without using words, right? Just using your mind to do a spell, and then master being able to do that and words with your mouth at the same time, and use the same spell at one time, which is like double the force, because we get that in the third one when they use Expelliarmus on Snape, and then just like do that a bunch. And then he was like, also learn, like, perfect apparating and become an animagus. Most
Boom.
powerful wizard in the world. Right
Nailed
there.
it. Crushed it.
Yeah.
Learn sign
that
language
was
too.
Okay.
Hold
Okay.
each wand, 3 wands in between your fingers. Say it out loud. Say it in your mind, and then sign it too.
Okay, I want J.K. Rowling on that. How do deaf people, deaf wizards, how do they do spells? Do they have to master doing spells without speaking?
Immediately.
Calling her out. Yeah, I'm
But
calling
how
her out.
can they do it without speaking if they don't know the incantation because they can't hear it?
That's
Right.
actually, there's like a bunch of questions that like
Those are good
I
questions.
think about that, like languages too. Like, is there one spell language, or does each language have its own version of the spell? And is there one language that has the most powerful spells?
Well, it seems like the spells. It's interesting you bring that up. I think spells are based in Latin, but when you
Yes.
go to a non-Latin based language, if you remember in the fourth movie, Crumb is saying a spell, and I think it's different in the book. I think in the book he actually says like normal spells, but in the movie at least he's speaking some kind of Slavic language and
That's
casting
right,
spells. So I wonder if it's just whatever their basic root is for whatever they're describing.
Yeah.
I think that leads to kind of the spell language root. But that was a really
Who knows?
weird diversion there we just took.
That was super weird.
Yeah.
Welcome to
Welcome
the Council of Nerds.
Welcome to the Council of Nerds podcast.
Dan, did you have anything that didn't make it into the movie from the book that you liked?
I think I listened to the audiobook mainly. I don't have the books up here at school because I want to get the chest that's full of all of them, but I can't afford $100 on it.
I have that. Ooh.
Shut up.
Brag.
No, I think one of the things that I love in the delivery in the audiobook, like I love how Alan Rickman does Snape, but I think one of the things that I love that I feel, I think it's more true to like how I perceive Snape's character is when Snape starts like throwing a tantrum pretty much when he sees all of them. Like he's not like calm, cool, and collected, but he like kind of loses his mind, a little bit. Like he goes back to like his, Hogwarts school age self.
Yeah. No, I think that's an interesting point because he does kind of get a little deranged in the book, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
finally gets his moment to get revenge on the guy who one guy who just sat there and did nothing, and then the other guy who is pretty much the right hand man of the person that tormented him all through high school. I think that's an interesting point. I don't know. I have issues with certain ways that either whether it was a director's decision or the actor's decision of like how they decided to do the character. I think Alan Rickman 99% of the time spot on. In that moment could have gone a little bit more crazy, but I don't know if it really fits with the Snape that he was portraying, because he's a pretty cool, collected guy throughout like all of the movies. But the part that I'm thinking of specifically that bothers me is when Dumbledore yells at Harry in the 4th movie. We can get to that, but Dumbledore doesn't yell. Like,
No.
that's just not who Dumbledore is.
Did you put your name in the goblet of fire?
Right. So there's moments that I feel like either the actor chose to do something differently, or the director chose to put something in there that just didn't fit necessarily with the character. But all right, favorite movie moment. It's the moment everyone's been waiting for. Really, this is why people listen to this podcast.
Yeah, nobody listens to the podcast for any other reason.
Any other reason other than to hear Dan's dulcet tones, and to find out what our favorite movie moments were. Go ahead, anybody. Jump at the bit. I want to hear it. Give me. Wow me. Woo.
Ooh. Are we gonna do favorite movie moment and favorite book moment, or are we just doing?
Yeah, I mean, if it fits in both, or you want to talk about one more than the other, you want to do both. I don't care. I love when Hermione punched Draco in the face. I think that's fantastic.
Okay. Favorite movie part. I specifically love the night bus scene in the movie.
What you fell over for?
Yeah, mainly because of him. What's his name again?
Stan Shunpike.
Yeah, Stan Shumpike.
The Death
That
Eater.
guy, the actor they
and
got
Ernie Prang.
Yeah, the guy they got for the movie cracks me up, and I love his whole dialogue, everything he says. Like when he says, when Harry asks how Sirius got out of Azkaban, and then he's like, "Well, that's the question, isn't it? He's the first one that done it."
He's a murderer.
That part. Yeah, he's so funny, and he's gross, but he's hilarious. I don't know. The thing I love about the movie, specifically is that I say specifically a lot, don't I? Is that it gives, for some reason I get this like Halloween vibe, just like this good October gray skies Halloween vibe, leaves falling, and I love that that time of year, and I think that's one reason I love the movie. But Stan Shumpike, his dialogue, love it. Book moment, I already said it. I love the Shrieking Shack scene. That whole bit there is awesome for me. I love the explanations. I love it. To me, is like, I think that is a good moment where it pushes the Harry Potter story. You know what I mean? Because it's pushing, like, getting down to the roots of Harry Potter's parents dying, how it happened, why it happened. That turn from I hate Sirius because he's the betrayer to Peter's now this ugly dude who he's actually the betrayer, but he's a coward, and then just that whole part from them by the Whomping Willow and Sirius still as a dog grabbing Ron and pulling him in there, all the way to Sirius, or what's his name, Remus turning into the werewolf. That whole part in the book for me is perfect. I love it.
I would have to agree with you. It's a very good moment. Like I said before, I think Hermione punching Draco in the face is a priceless moment. I think that Draco deserves it, and it's definitely not in the book. Like, is it?
She does something to him. I don't think it's a punch though.
But I think that's great. And then I've always loved, like, just the Marauders map as a whole. Like, yeah. I think that was one of the... I mean, there's many things that translates really well from the book to the movies, but that specifically was, like, exactly what I had in my mind when they did it in the movie. I think maybe the map was a bit bigger in my head when I read the books, but the translation from the book to the movie for specifically the Marauders map was just about as dang near perfect as I could have imagined it myself. And that was just super cool. There are some there's one issue I have with it. I mean, Harry in the book doesn't ever see Peter Pettigrew on the map, but he does in the movie, which really bothers me.
Wait, that's not true.
That is.
I'm pretty sure in the book he does see Peter
He doesn't. He never.
on the map.
Any time that he's looking at the map, either Ron is with him, with like in the book he doesn't see, like, because Lupin never sees Peter's name on the book or on the map. He sees Sirius running after them and taking them into the Shrieking Shack. That's when he follows them because he has the map in the book. Harry doesn't ever see Peter Pettigrew because he's still in the book. He still doesn't even really know. He still doesn't believe that Peter Pettigrew is alive. There's no reason for him to think he is. And then Sirius goes through the explanation of seeing Peter on the newspaper and all of that. But in the book, I made sure to look it up beforehand. But in the
well, also in the book Hermione slaps Draco in the face. In the movie she punches him. Either
I think
way.
the punch is better.
I think I like the punch. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
But I digress.
Yeah.
I like the book version better of him seeing Sirius and then going and trying to help the kids or help Sirius, either way you go about it. But I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably the two biggest things for me are Hermione punching Draco and the Marauders map, both in the book and in the movie. Just the way it translated together. It was nice for me. I enjoyed that the vision I had got translated correctly, and it's nice to not complain about something. So there you go.
That is nice. Let's see. I think my favorite movie.
Wow.
I think my
Movie
favorite.
moment.
Yeah, movie moment. There we go. I recovered. Thank you.
Good recovery.
I think
yes.
it's similar in the book and the movie. It's after Harry and Hermione use the time turner to go back in time, because I just think that's so cool. It's something that you don't see in any book before or after that. Like, it's a different kind of tension. In the other books, the tension is always bad guys chasing them down or them trying to solve this puzzle. But in this one, they're running away from themselves. They're trying to save themselves. And so it's a weird, interesting kind of like tension that like really gets you on your seat, especially when you're like, oh shoot, you better move Buckbeak so you don't run into yourselves, and so you better move Buckbeak before he gets his head chopped off. You're like, don't run into yourself. Don't do that. That'd be crazy. And it's cool to, like, especially in the movie, when it goes back and you're like, where did this, like, rock that looks like a snail come from? And I'm still honestly not sure if that's a rock or a snail. I don't know.
Same. I always think it's a snail.
But, like, in the movie, you're like, where does that come from? Like, there's no logical reason that we have so far that explains it.
Isn't it a bit different in the book?
I don't remember if it is or not. I'm not too... My Audible's not working for some reason. I haven't listened to the book. I know. I tried, and it said it wasn't working. But yeah, I think
basically
I like that tension.
Dan's the reason we can't have nice things.
Okay, whatever.
Rude.
I do, however, wish that the movie went more in depth, like with foreshadowing, with like Hermione's use of the time turner, because the book does like a great job of showing like how stressed she is, how tired she is, how much work she has. Where the movie just kind of is like, oh, here's a little bit,
Yeah.
Oh, where's Hermione? Where's Perry? That type of thing.
No, I think
Phineas and Ferb and all them. Yeah.
Phineas and Ferb.
They're probably wizards. Let's be honest.
Well, it actually brings
Probably
up an interesting point with the time turner, Dan. Where what's the max number of classes? Is it 12? Like 12 12 OWLs is like the most you can get. Well, if you think about it, at this point, well, maybe not. At this point, you know 2 other Hogwarts students that have gotten 12 OWLs, and it was Percy and Bill Weasley. And if
Yeah.
Hermione needed a time turner to take 12 classes, then they would have needed a time turner to take the 12 classes, which could explain why Percy is a bit of a strung out jerk most of the time, because he's taking a
Percy
million
sucks.
classes all the time. But I thought that was kind of interesting. We find out Barty Crouch Jr. also got 12 OWLs. So, Hermione's not the first student to have the time turner, but it's or a time turner, because we find out there's more than one. But I don't like how they do time. I'm gonna be honest, but
it's a cop out
yeah, I think it was a quick fix to a plot thing. But
from like I'm not a what's the word? I don't study film. I kind of do, but not really. But from a film study standpoint, from what I've read online and stuff, whenever it comes to like time travel, it's a cop out. Like a time travel to fix a problem, cop out. I bet J.K. Rowling was like middle of writing. She's like, I don't know what to do. Time travel. That'll do it. Yep. Just turn it 3 times. That'll work. She probably just watched Back to the Future and say, hey, that solved their problems. This shall solve mine.
that's true.
I had another part, though, that in the movie they didn't do great on. Well, I mean, it's not that important. I think that's why they didn't really do it. But in the book, Quidditch is really big in the third one. Like the whole Quidditch House Cup, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
That part's big. I liked that. I don't know, I kind of like when in the book, they talk about Quidditch a lot, because it kind of gives it's relatable, like it's like, people who are fans of sports in real life, you can relate to these wizards who are also a fan of sports. And, like also like in the fourth one, they go to the Quidditch World Cup, but this third one, like with them playing and like being so competitive, and then after Gryffindor losing to Hufflepuff, they just don't like Cedric.
Yeah.
That was all. Like they putting Cedric in this as well. Like Cedric was in the third one a bit, a good amount, at least mentioned. And in the third movie, he's not in it at all. But yeah, I like that. I like when Quidditch is put in there, but they don't really put it in the movies at all, in any of the movies.
From what I've heard, a big part of that is that Daniel Radcliffe hated doing the filming scenes on the brooms because of the way that it was rigged up.
Boo-hoo.
Yeah.
Boo-hoo.
I
I'm
think they
making
cut-
millions of dollars
Right.
off this franchise, and I don't like filming broom stuff.
I think that's
Grow
why a
up.
lot of it got cut. Those are some of my favorite moments in the books, is Quidditch. I think it's a very fun thing to read. It breaks up a
They're
lot
super
of
fun.
the other stuff. Something that, we've kind of all brought up something I wish they did a little bit better job with. I think the Bogart scene. In the book, the Bogart goes through at least 2 or 3 more students.
Yeah, it does.
I think like Pavarti gets up there and it turns into a mummy, and like there's other people that get up there and it turns into other things. And I thought that would have been more, not necessarily more interesting, but I just wish that they turned into the skid on the magical aspects of Harry Potter. But they wanted the story to be really stable with the continuity of the books, and so they focused more on that story, the story of the good versus the evil, and the arc with Harry and Voldemort and all that, which is totally fine. I think they just kind of slipped on some of those magical aspects, which is kind of why I like the Fantastic Beasts movies, because it goes into a little bit more about the specifics of certain magical things that I've always liked. So
Yeah, I have some beef with the Fantastic Beasts movies, but
Of course you do.
Time. Okay, different time.
all right. I think we kind of talked about quite a few things. I think what's left for us to kind of discuss is fan theories, if you guys have one. I know Dan said he mentioned one that is a bit lengthy, but I'm always down to hear it if you want to get into it, Dan.
When I say lengthy, I mean like it's lengthy.
Well, I mean, can you boil it down, or is it you need to go that deep?
I might be able to boil it down. Let me see. Let me. Um, I think this is an old theory. This is from like before all the books were out. I think this came from the time around book 5 or 6. And the theory is that Ron is Dumbledore. And it's based off of the chess game in Sorcerer's Stone is like a metaphor for the series as a whole. Everyone, their chess piece is who they are for, the series pretty much. And Ron's the only person who plays 2 characters. He plays the knight, which is kind of like the right-hand man to the hero, So, that's like Ron, but then he also plays the king, which is something that Dumbledore is throughout the book. He's kind of like the leader of it. And this theory, it kind of goes through the reasons why Ron might be Dumbledore. A lot of them, one of them is the resemblance between them. They're both tall, at least in the books. They're both described as being really tall. They're both described as having, large hands, large feet, long fingers, that sort of thing. Big noses, even though Dumbledore's is broken. And then in Riddle's diary, when they go back, when Harry sees Dumbledore's described as having auburn-colored hair, which is same color as Ron's. And this is something that's actually really, really cool. In this theory, it's Dumbledore has those piercing blue eyes, but I did not know until I was reading this that throughout the first 5 books, J.K. Rowling never mentioned Ron's eye color at all. I don't know if she mentioned in the 6th or the 7th at all either, but the first 5 she never mentioned his eye color, what it could be. Yeah, which I thought was pretty cool. Dumbledore also has a scar above his left knee. We know in Prisoner of Azkaban that Ron gets dragged by the dog, and he gets injured on his left leg. Same thing. Another thing they have in common is a love for sweets, candy, that sort of thing. And this is something that in this theory I'm not sure if I understand right. It says Dumbledore is over 150 years old. Is that true, or is that before book 6 and 7 came out?
Yeah, canonically he died at like the age of 116. Let's look it up to verify.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was in the mid-90s, right?
Yes.
So he would have been born before 1900.
Yeah.
So this is one thing that's really cool. Sorcerer's Stone, at the end, Dumbledore's like, Bertie Bott's every flavored beans. I used to love these, but I had one in my youth that was vomit flavored, right? And he hasn't had one since. But Bertie Bott, the inventor of those beans, was born in 1935 when Dumbledore would have already been in his 40s. And then, if that's when Bertie Bott was born, chances are he didn't even invent the beans until the 50s when Dumbledore would have been, 60, 70, somewhere around there?
Yeah.
Even if you live to be 100, that's past middle age. It's not your youth anymore. So that kind of brings it into question, too.
So according to this source, Rowling said in an interview that Dumbledore was about 150, which probably is the source for this theory. But on Pottermore, it says he was born in 1881, which would make him 115 or 116, depending on his actual date of birth. At the time of his death, anyway. There you go.
Yeah. Something that's really cool about this theory in the beginning is J.K. Rowling, whenever she introduces some sort of magic, she reads it. She doesn't really do like one-off spells or something. And the only real exception that jumps out is the Time Turner. Like, it's there in the 3rd book, and then, they break a bunch of them in the Ministry of Magic, but it's never used again, unlike pretty much every other spell. And so I think, like, the theory is that, like, at least when this was written, is that Ron will use one in, the 6th or 7th book, go back in time, which explains how Dumbledore pretty much seems to know what's going to happen, because if the boy Harry Potter is your best way to beat Voldemort, why would you let him go through everything in the Sorcerer's Stone? Why would you'd be okay with that? You wouldn't be worried about that. And it's because if Dumbledore's Ron, then he knows that Harry's going to work out because he's already lived it. He knows everything Voldemort is going to do.
Yeah. It's like the concept that Harry says at the end of the third movie. He said it's like when he casts the Patronus, he says, "I know I could do it because I'd already done it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Does that make any sense?" And Hermione's like, "No, I don't know what you're talking
He's
about."
already done it.
But that makes sense in that context. Is Ron's like, "Well, it's already happened. I know it's gonna happen, so it's all good."
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more, but I think my favorite part about this theory, it's like kind of tugs at the heartstrings. Do you remember what Dumbledore said he saw in the mirror of Erised?
Woolly socks.
Woolly socks. And what was a gift that Ron always got from his mom, but he never appreciated?
Wool sweaters.
Wool sweaters and probably socks too. And so to me, you know, that's kind of cool. If Ron did go back in time and live another 100 years, you know, he kind of probably realized the things that he missed, you know, like just the wool socks that his mom got him.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
I know, right?
I got a good fan theory.
Thank you for that,
For the
Dan.
third
That was
one.
awesome.
Yeah, that was a really good
No
one.
problem.
Blew my mind out of the water, like I said last episode. Yeah, I found a good theory for the third one though.
Go for it.
So it has to do with Harry's little vision when the Dementor gets him on the Hogwarts Express. This is actually a really good one. So I don't the source comes the source of the theory comes from a Reddit user named Starzaho. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. That's how I'm pronouncing it. Anyway, it basically is saying, well, I'll just kind of read a bit of it, but it says, as we all know, Harry has his first encounter with the Dementors as he's on the Hogwarts Express going to school. And due to the effect they have on him, Harry passes out and is forced to relive the worst memory, the death of his parents, correct? Yes. And this Reddit dude, Starzaho, suggests his theory, which is that that the memory Harry is forced to relive isn't actually his own, but it is instead Voldemort's. So before your minds are completely blown, this is the explanation. So it says Harry was 15 months old when his parents died, right? And so it's kind of difficult to believe that Harry can remember something from 15 months old. I don't know anybody who really remembers anything at that age, correct?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Dementors, you could say like, oh, Dementors have that power though. They can bring out that memory, you know, because it is in that brain. It is there. It's so far away, you're not going to remember it. But the theory suggests that, as Dumbledore said, however, to speak of minds and souls regarding Harry is to speak of the same thing. So this is why Voldemort can see into Harry's mind and vice versa. A fragment of Voldemort's soul remains inside Harry, which we later learned to be the Horcrux, kind of, that he didn't mean to make. And so the theory is that the memory primarily comes from Voldemort. This was the event where it was, you know, part of his soul was ripped from his body, and that, you know, the Dementors bring out the worst, and that is Voldemort's worst memory is when he came closest to death, and it's bringing Harry to closest to death. And so the reason Harry blacked out during the Dementor attacks, all those attacks, is because this act of selfless love by Lily causes Voldemort unendurable pain whenever he experiences it, like when he tried to possess Harry. And so it's like, we all think that this memory that this quote-unquote memory that Harry is having of his parents dying, but really when you read the books, it seems to focus on that selfless love, right? It does kind of seem to focus on Lily, what she did for Harry, and what James did for Lily and Harry as well, that selfless love. But for Voldemort, that is probably his worst memory, because he loses all his power. He basically dies he's becomes nothing. He almost becomes just a memory. And so it just says, Harry blacks out because part of his soul is in agony while the other is not. And so the Dementors bring up the memory of this act of love, which Voldemort cannot stand. And I thought that was really cool.
Huh.
A really cool theory there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think it makes sense, because like you were kind of saying with Harry, if that was Harry's memory, like, yeah, it's sad, but it's ultimately a happy-ish memory. Like,
Yeah.
it's a
I mean,
memory
it
of
becomes the only
love.
memory he has of them.
Right. Like, if my wife took a bullet for me, yeah, I'd be sad, but at the same time, overwhelmed with the fact that she took a bullet for me. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it
Yeah.
would eventually be this moment of remembering my wife as a hero and all these things. So, like, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I got one.
Okay.
Trelawney is never wrong.
I hate Trelawney, but I know where you're going with this, and it really makes good points.
Everything that she predicts eventually comes true. Little things like when she asks Neville, well, first Neville in the teacup, instantly she's like, I know you're going to break that one, so next time get this other colored teacup because I like this other color. He breaks it like,
Right.
30 seconds later. That's a little one. But she also asks her, is your grandmother well? And he's like, yeah, I think so. She seems fine. And she's like, well, I would check in on her. Well, we know what happens later is she gets attacked by the Death Eaters. So she very well could have been referencing the fact that his grandmother was going to be attacked by the Death Eaters in the future. The
Right.
biggest one, though, aside from her actual prophecies, when she actually does her job, is when she goes to the Christmas meal there's 12, quote unquote, people at the table. And she refuses to sit down because she would make it an even 13, and then the next person that would get up would die. Fun fact, Scabbers is at the table, which we find out later is Peter Pettigrew, meaning that there already are 13 people at the table, and Dumbledore stands up first, and in that table of those 13 people, the person to first die in the continuity of Harry Potter is Albus Dumbledore. So that's really interesting. And then, yeah, there's just little things. Like, every single time she says something kind of flippant and off the cuff and you think she's kind of crazy, it eventually does come true, like, in this really weird roundabout way. So she's actually super talented as a seer, but nobody gives her any credit, so why would she?
Not even Dumbledore gives her credit.
No.
Even Dumbledore talks crap about Trelawney.
We'll risk it. It's fine. Sit down. Eat some food.
Yeah.
And then I have one other one. I really like Crookshanks in the book. Not so much in the movie, but I don't like cats, but I like Crookshanks. There's a fan theory that Crookshanks was the cat owned by the Potters. There's a letter that they find in the 7th book that is written by Lily to Sirius. And in it they reference that Harry is terrorizing the cat with his little, like, fake broomstick thing that he's flying around on.
Oh, yeah.
And so people are like, well, what the heck happened to this cat? So part of the fan theory goes, we know that Crookshanks is extremely intelligent. So not only is Crookshanks not actually a cat, the theory is that Crookshanks is actually a Kneazle, which is a magical version of a cat, basically. They look very much like a cat. They're just hyper intelligent and have some magical abilities. But when they go into the pet shop, Crookshanks immediately jumps on the group. The theory is that Crookshanks went, hey, that's my kid. That's the kid who tormented me when they were young. I love my kid. I want to be with my kid. Because as we know, pets very much ingrain themselves in their owners and things like that. So there's that aspect of I want to be with this person. And then also with the interactions in the book between Crookshanks and Sirius being very in-depth, we can logically say that Sirius would have been going over to the Potters a lot and would have known their cat, and Crookshanks would have known him, and the fact that he was also an animagus and could turn into a dog and all of that. So there's some things there. It's a bit of a thinner theory. Doesn't really do much in terms of the continuity of stuff, but
Really quickly, because we're running out of time. But to add on to that theory, Sirius seemed to have a good relationship with Crookshanks as well.
right.
Correct? Did you say
Yeah.
that,
And Crookshanks hated
Peter?
everyone.
The
No,
rat.
they
She hated the rat.
hated rat. Because again, he probably would have been coming over to the house, right? And
Right.
then well, you're a skeevy dude. Because I mean, pets are pretty.
They know.
They
know
know.
more than us.
Like if you come
Let's
in
be
and they're
real,
like,
they're
I
a
don't
lot
like
smarter
you.
than humans.
Yeah.
Especially those
Yeah.
dolphins, yo. Just kidding.
Yeah, but she when in the third book, Sirius hung out with Crookshanks all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they were homies. And then that cat from like day one hated Scabbers.
Tried to kill him.
I think that. Yeah, I think that.
So it's a bit of a thin theory, but it's interesting. I think
It's a solid
it
theory.
gives more to Crookshanks. I think Crookshanks is just ultimately an annoying cat in the movies, but
Yeah.
a little bit more to him in the books. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this one, guys. I like this movie. It's grown on me. I've enjoyed the characters that get introduced in this movie. But yeah, I think we're gonna be coming up
Yeah.
on the Goblet of Fire, which I'm excited about, and it only gets darker from here, folks.
The long hair episodes.
Yeah, the Skater Boy episodes. Next week we may or may not be doing something a little different than the Goblet of Fire. We'll see.
Little
Something a little
cliffhanger.
more fun. Yeah. But yeah. Still, again, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, basically any podcast platform, and YouTube as well. But tell your friends. We want to have other people listen to us. We want to hear what they want to hear about. We want to know what other people think. We want them to listen to us.
We know you love us. Just share us with the world. Just let us be known. We enjoy it.
four
You
people.
enjoy it. Yeah. The 9
The
people
4 people who
watch.
aren't our wives or
One
girlfriends
love.
that
Yes.
we know listen to us every single week. Thank you very much.
Thank you
But
for the
tell
support.
your freaking friends. Tell your friends so we can get more people. Please. But yeah, thank you so much. This is the Council of Nerds podcast. Thank you.
Hallelujah.
The Council of Nerds.